Hello, I'm Rose from UK Care Guide, and in this short video I'm going to explain to you what a protective property trust is and how it works. I'll also give you an example to help you to understand better. An increasing number of people are beginning to consider the possibility of a need for care in the future and the financial impact it may have upon them. A property trust allows you to save a portion of your property to pass on to your loved ones. They are also known as property trust wills. A protective property trust is a type of legal structure that can be included in your will. It is designed to protect your property during assessments carried out that determine how much you'll pay towards long-term care costs. However, it cannot be used solely with the aim of avoiding care home fees. Property trust ensures that surviving spouses or partners can continue to benefit from their deceased partner's share in a jointly owned property even when they are gone. The best way to describe it is with an example. Let's take Mr. and Mrs. Jones. They are married with an adult child and are both 70 years old living in England. They own their house worth £150,000 and have savings of £50,000 between them. When they wrote their wills, they wanted to keep things straightforward. Their wills say that when one of them dies, everything passes to the surviving spouse. Then, when the survivor dies, everything passes to their only child. This is a typical arrangement for married couples with children. Now let's move on 5 years. Mr. Jones dies, and in accordance with his will, his estate passes entirely to Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones has all the assets transferred into her sole name, including their family home. Mrs. Jones now has assets worth £200,000 in her own right. Now let's move forward another 2 years. Mrs. Jones is in poor health, and the practicalities of running her home by herself are causing issues. She unfortunately becomes ill, which leaves her unable to manage her affairs. Whilst their adult child offers support, he can't look after his mother on a full-time basis. The only practical option is for Mrs. Jones to move into a residential care home. Mrs. Jones has her needs and finances assessed by the local authority. Because Mrs. Jones has more than £23,250, she has to pay for her own care home fees. The cost of the care home is £30,000 a year. Mrs. Jones stays in the care home for another 5 years until she dies, so the total cost amounts to £150,000. Because of the cost of the care home, the value of Mrs. Jones's estate reduces from £200,000 to £50,000, and her son receives an inheritance of £50,000. For some couples, this scenario is fine, but for many couples it won't be. Lots of people want to protect as many of their assets as possible in order to pass them on to loved ones and protect them from being used for care home fees. The good news is that this is where a protective property trust can help. If you do it properly, you can protect at least half the property and keep it for your children. This is achieved by writing your will in such a way that it puts half the family home in a type of trust when the first spouse or civil partner dies. The terms of the trust also mean that the surviving spouse or civil partner can continue to live in the property held within the trust. By preparing a property trust will in the right way, the value of half the home is ring-fenced by the trust, so that it isn't taken into account if the surviving spouse is financially assessed for residential care home fees. The reason is because half of it is owned by the trust, and the other half is owned by the surviving spouse or civil partner. As I'm sure you can already tell, this is a complex issue, and it's so important to make sure that you get this right. Here at UK Care Guide, we can help you to do this. You can find some contact details at the end of this video. So there we go, that was a brief outline of what a protective property trust will is. I hope you found it useful.